Today we're going to be working on making a model box out of black foam board using the drafting that we were giving of the Klein Theatre stage. So to start, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need your drafting, you're going to need a scale ruler, a pencil, X-Acto knife, and your steel ruler, and of course your black foam board. Now your foam board has a factory edge, so we're going to go straight from the sides because we have a nice 90-degree angle when we go to mark. Get your 1/8 inch drafting. We're going to figure out the measurement for the stage floor. So we're going to go from the inside edge to the inside edge from right to left. And then we're going to get the inside edge from the back wall to the front of the apron. Apron, of course, referring to the part of the stage that is in front of the proscenium. So we're going to take our measurement that we got from our 1/8 inch. We're going to transfer our scale ruler over to 3/8, and then we're going to start marking out where we need to go. So I'm looking for the prettiest corner on my board because I want it to be nice and sharp. I'm going to take that measurement. So I'm doing the width of the stage, so figure out how wide that is. And then I am going to start at the corner, and you'll notice that my measurement is longer than my scale ruler will allow. So I'm going to measure out to 30 feet and then do the remaining 12 feet by setting it again to 0 and then marking at 12. So I'm going to do that on the bottom, and then I'm going to carry it over to the top again. And then once I have those two lines, I'm going to snap a line between the two so that I have my cutting edge. You may notice that when I grab my X-Acto knife, I keep my ruler in the same place. The reason I draw the line on there before I go to cut is because I want to make sure that the line hasn't shifted and everything is good. So it's a good backup measure. Don't forget that it'll take you about 3 passes to get through, so do not try to cut through the foam board on your first attempt. You'll know that it's all the way through once you feel it release nicely. Now that you have the width of your stage, you need to get the depth. So you're going to go back to your drafting and you're going to figure out how deep that wall is from the inside of the back wall to the front of the apron. I already have that measurement from when I did it before, so I'm going to mark out that measurement because I wrote it down. And then I am going to cut after having marked the line. When you're finished, you can check that that piece is square by checking the diagonals. If the measurement from one diagonal corner to the other matches its opposite, you should be good to go. Now that I finished my stage floor, it should be 42 feet wide by 28 feet deep. And now I want to get the center line so I can get the shape of the apron correct. So I'm going to measure out what half of that overall width is. So half of my 42 is a pretty easy number to find. I'm going to measure in from one side, and I'm going to mark it on the bottom. I'm going to mark it on the top, and then I'm going to score a line from one to the other. I am not going to cut this. I am just marking a center line. So the next thing to do is to figure out how deep that apron is. So it has about 3 feet from the front of the apron to where the proscenium stops. So I'm going to measure out 3 feet. Again, going along the depth of the stage. So your 28-foot mark, you're going to bring that in and you're going to draw your line. Next thing to do is to get the shape of that little angle that's going off the front. So you're going to measure where your wall actually starts, so where that proscenium lands. You're going to measure this little part right here where the angle starts, and then you're going to measure where the angle ends. And I'm drawing a line right now so that you can see how that lines up with what's going on there. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the dimensions. It is 12 feet from center line to the start of the wall. So make a little mark at 12 feet, make a little mark at 1 foot, and then make a mark at 6 inches. You're going to do this both on the line that you drew and the very, very bottom of the piece. Make sure those measurements line up. But again, you're at 12, at 13, and 13.6, or you can think of it as 12 foot and then 1 foot and then 6 inches. Whichever way works better for you is fine. So you should have 4 sets of these little measurements, one on the line that you drew and one on the bottom of the board. So next what you're going to do is you're going to play connect the dots. You're going to go from the middle line to the furthest right. So from that 13 foot to your 13.6, and then you're going to do the other side. You're going to do your middle line to your furthest to the left line, and your angle should look similar to what you have on your drafting by the time you're finished. Now that you have that measured out, you can go ahead and cut it. So plunge your X-Acto knife right into that corner, nice, sharp, and precise, and you can cut that piece out. When you are finished, your stage floor should look exactly like a larger version of what you have in your drafting. Now that we have the stage floor, we can move on to the walls. So the first thing to notice is how the walls sit in relationship to each other. So your side walls are going to be the same depth as that now 25-foot expanse of your stage. It's always a good idea to confirm that your walls are correct in measurement at all steps during the process. So here you see me checking that they are in fact landing at 25 feet. If for some reason that measurement is slightly off, you want that side wall to match what's going on with your stage. Next step is to grab one of your offcut pieces of foam board. You're going to measure out how wide that stage wall is. So you're going to get the 25-foot measurement that you just confirmed. You're going to make a mark at the top, make a mark at the bottom, draw a line between the two. You can either cut it now or you can cut it all later. Both options are fine. And now that you know how deep it is, you need to figure out how tall your walls are. This is not on your drafting, and I'm giving it to you now. Your walls are going to be 25 feet tall plus an extra width of that steel ruler, and we'll explain in the future why that's important. But for now, you're going to mark out your 25 feet, and then you're going to take your steel ruler and you're going to add a little bit extra height to that wall. Once you have it all marked out, you want to label it so that you know which piece it is, go ahead and cut it, and now you have your stage right wall. Once you finish, do the exact same thing again. This is going to be for your stage left wall, so one's going to be right, one's going to be the left, same exact measurements. And now that you have both walls, you can test them against your existing stage floor to make sure that they meet up nice and flush and pretty. So go ahead and check that. Now the next important part is that when you put them in, the proscenium and the back wall are going to overlap those two walls that you just cut. So the important thing about this is that your measurement is going to be the width of stage deck plus the measurement of both of those pieces of foam. So you need to figure out the thickness of the foam and add that to your measurement when you go to cut it. So to cut the back wall, you'll likely need your second piece of foam. You'll need this for the proscenium wall as well. So you're going to use the same height that you used for your side walls. And then again, the width of your stage plus 3/16 plus 3/16 because you're accounting for two pieces of foam that wall needs to extend past. So here you can see me measuring out like I did before, my 30 feet and then my 12 feet. And then I'm gonna take my two pieces of foam, I'm gonna take a ruler, I'm gonna figure out how thick they are, and then I'm gonna add that measurement right to the end. And so I'm going to do this for the bottom and then for the top, and then I'm going to score a line between, just like I've been doing for my other walls. Don't forget to have your extra width of the scale ruler added in there because you want it to match the same height for your other walls. So what I'm going to show you is that to test it, you can use little pieces of offcut. You can put your back wall against, and you can see if that wall is the thickness of the stage floor plus your two. If it is, you're good to go. For the next piece, you want to cut the proscenium wall. It's going to be identical in size to your back wall, so you're going to do the exact same width, the exact same height, and you're going to make sure that you add the width of the steel ruler at the beginning like you have for all your other walls. I like to label my pieces after I've made them so I keep them straight, so I have proscenium one, back wall on the other. Next thing we need to do is we need to make the proscenium fit around that apron that we have extending at the front of the stage. So I'm going to do math to find my center line. So I'm going to measure my overall board, mark the middle, and then transfer this line down. You'll want to pay close attention when I do this part because it will make more sense if you follow along with me than you try to do it on your own. So we remember that we had those measurements for the proscenium. So the proscenium actually sits on top of the stage floor just a little bit. So we're going to start our first measurement of measuring out our 12 feet. We're going to put our mark, and then we're going to measure one more foot out. We're not doing the third measurement this time, just those two. So 12 feet to the right, and then one more foot, and then 12 feet to the left, and then one more foot. You're going to carry the 12-foot mark up to create the proscenium opening, and then your extra foot mark, or your 13-foot, is going to get carried down to sit around that little portion of the stage that we cut out. So what you see me doing is I'm carrying those marks down, specifically that 13-foot mark, or the extra foot, so that I can transfer my line down, and this is going to again make the part that's going to fit around the stage. So making sure that those lines are nice and squared off, and then I'm going to put little marks, little X's on the part that I want to cut out and not keep. Next, I need to measure up the part that's going to become the proscenium opening. So our proscenium opening is 13 feet and 8 inches. We're going to round that to 14 feet for an easier measurement for you guys to do. So make a tick mark at 14 feet on either side of the stage. And then next you're going to work on getting your lines for the width mapped out. So you're going to do the same thing you did before with bringing the 12 feet out, but this time you're going to do it from the top of your board and not the bottom. So do 12 feet to either side, and then use your steel ruler to transition those lines up. And then once you have those pulled all the way up, you can go back to those 14-foot lines that you did, and you can complete your little box that you're making. After you have your lines all drawn, you're going to cut it out. Pay very close attention to the shape that I have at the end. So you're going to use your X-Acto ruler, you're going to plunge into the corners, you're going to cut nice and clean, and then you should have a nice smooth foam edge when you are finished. And it should look exactly like this. After you have this done, all your parts are cut out and you are ready to assemble. So get your glue ready and get ready to put all your pieces together. For the final step, we're going to work on attaching your walls. So start with your side walls. Because they're the same depth as your stage floor, they're going to line up perfectly flush to the back and the front. You're going to make sure that you pay attention to this little line that you drew. Your foam board is going to sit right at the bottom of that line. So the top part of your stage floor will sit right at that line. Use your quick dry glue. Glue the side that you're attaching. And then again, you're going to sneak it right up to that line. You're going to hold it for a little while to make sure that that glue sticks. A handy thing to keep next to you is a paper towel that you've soaked with water and then squeezed most of it out of. You can see the glue sitting at that edge. That paper towel will help you clean that up so that you don't have messy glue looking lines. Don't get the paper towel too damp, or else you'll just smear glue around. So now that your wall is holding, we're going to turn it over and we're going to do the other side wall. So you see me putting on my glue here, and then again, line it up to that wall line that you just drew. Hold it for a second. Make sure there's no gapping. You don't want to have any space in between the wall and the floor. So push firm, make sure all sides are connected and getting glued. And then you can move to the proscenium. So again, I'm gluing all of the surfaces that make contact. Line up your proscenium. It should match up flush to those side walls. After you get this all set up, you can flip it upside down to make sure that you're going to that line, but it's a little bit easier here because of that apron. It will kind of lock you into place a little bit better. Again, make sure your edges are pretty, they're lined up, there's no excess glue anywhere. And then for your final step, you're going to secure your back wall. So, as always, glue your lines. And then you're going to work on making sure that you're flushing it up to the edge of those side walls like you just did for your proscenium. But I have it flipped in view so that I can see what's going on with that line that I drew to make sure that it's going with the stage floor. Gluing all your sides, you have a finished model box.